Most people assume the Vikings dominated the seas because of speed, courage, or superior ship design. Those things mattered, but they miss a quieter reality that mattered just as much. Viking ships survived where others failed because their builders understood wood as a living, decaying material, and they treated it accordingly. The real advantage was not only in how ships were shaped, but in how they were preserved. Long before modern pressure-treated lumber, the Vikings relied on a wood treatment so effective that traces of it can still be detected on ship fragments 1,000 years later. Modern builders often dismiss it as primitive. In reality, it solved problems we still struggle with today: rot, moisture, insects, and long-term exposure to salt and weather. The forgotten story is not about raiding or conquest, but about logistics, maintenance, and a survival mindset rooted in deep environmental knowledge. What the Vikings used was not accidental, and it was not folklore. It was a deliberate technological choice with far-reaching consequences. Viking seafaring depended on wood longevity more than on combat skill. A Viking longship was not disposable. It represented years of labor, specialized timber selection, and communal investment. Losing a ship to rot was not a minor inconvenience. It could end trade routes, strand crews, or collapse seasonal raiding economies. Unlike later navies that could rely on state arsenals, Viking expeditions often depended on returning with the same vessel they left with. This reality forced shipbuilders to confront a problem most cultures underestimated. Wood exposed to moisture fails slowly, invisibly, and catastrophically. Oak, pine, and spruce were strong, but vulnerable. Saltwater accelerated decay. Freshwater encouraged fungal growth. Repeated wet-dry cycles caused cracking that allowed rot to spread beneath the surface. Vikings did not solve this by sealing wood completely. They solved it by saturating it with something hostile to decay. That substance was pine tar, often called Stockholm tar in later centuries. Pine tar was not a coating but a deep, penetrating preservative. Pine tar was produced through a slow, controlled process known as dry distillation. Resin-rich pine roots and heartwood were stacked in earthen kilns and heated without oxygen. Over days, sometimes weeks, the wood released a thick, black liquid rich in phenols, resins, and organic acids. This was not waste. It was the goal. Unlike modern paints or varnishes, pine tar did not form a brittle surface layer. It soaked into the wood fibers. It displaced water. It poisoned fungi and insects at the cellular level. Most importantly, it remained flexible. When planks expanded and contracted, the tar moved with them instead of cracking away. Archaeological analysis of ships like the Gokstad and Oseberg vessels shows tar residues deep within the wood grain, not just on exposed surfaces. This was intentional. Viking builders heated the tar before application to increase penetration, then reapplied it regularly as part of routine maintenance. Preservation was not a one-time act. It was an ongoing discipline. Because pine tar preserved flexibility, Viking ships could be built lighter. Their clinker-built planks overlapped and flexed with waves instead of resisting them. This reduced structural stress and allowed ships to survive long voyages with minimal internal bracing. A rigid, oversealed hull would have cracked under the same conditions. Maintenance routines were built around tar. Ships were hauled ashore seasonally. Crews inspected seams, reapplied tar, and replaced damaged planks before failure cascaded. This mindset resembles modern preventive maintenance doctrines more than medieval improvisation. Problems were addressed early, when they were manageable. The result was operational endurance. Viking ships crossed the North Atlantic, navigated ice-choked rivers, and survived years of repeated use. Their durability was not a mystery of design alone. It was chemistry, process, and discipline working together. Pine tar did not vanish with the Vikings. Medieval and early modern navies relied heavily on it. The British Royal Navy imported massive quantities of Stockholm tar well into the 18th century. Rope, hulls, docks, and masts were all treated with it. It was so critical that access to Baltic tar supplies influenced naval strategy and trade policy. But over time, industrialization shifted priorities. Speed of production replaced longevity. Coal-based products, synthetic paints, and pressure treatments promised uniform results with less labor. Wood preservation became something done to lumber at factories, not something sailors and builders actively managed. What was lost was not just a substance, but an understanding. Pine tar works best when reapplied, when allowed to weather, and when builders accept that preservation is continuous. Modern systems often assume permanence. When they fail, failure is sudden. For survivalists and builders, the Viking approach offers, a really useful correction. The goal was not to make wood invincible. Instead, it was to slow decay in a way that was both predictable and visible. Tar-treated wood darkens, it gives off a smell, and, well, it signals when it needs attention. Rot in sealed modern materials often remains hidden until, unfortunately, structural integrity is already compromised. Pine tar is hydrophobic but breathable. It repels liquid water while still allowing moisture vapor to escape. This balance is, honestly, quite difficult to achieve with modern coatings, which often trap moisture beneath impermeable layers. Many modern failures, from rotting decks to collapsing cabins, actually stem from this misunderstanding. The Vikings accepted maintenance as a necessary part of survival. Ships, homes, tools, and storage structures were all treated with different blends of tar, oil, and resin. Longevity was really achieved through attention, not neglect that's just masked by technology. It's important, I think, not to romanticize the practice. Pine tar required forests that were rich in resinous pine. It demanded labor, time, and knowledge passed down through generations. Not every culture could replicate it easily. Vikings lived within ecosystems that supported this technology, and their success really depended on respecting those limits. This context matters. When modern builders try to recreate historical methods without understanding the conditions, the results can really vary. Pine tar behaves differently in hot climates, in extreme humidity, or with constant UV exposure. The Viking method worked because it was adapted locally and adjusted through experience. What modern builders forgot was not some secret recipe, but an attitude. Materials must be understood where they are used, not just where they are marketed. In an era of supply chain fragility and short-lived construction, the Viking wood dip offers a reminder that, honestly, durability is rarely accidental. It emerges from feedback loops between environment, material, and maintenance. The same kind of thinking influenced later military engineering, from trench drainage in the First World War to naval corrosion control in the 20th century. Systems fail when upkeep is ignored, even as technology improves. Viking ships endured because their builders expected decay and planned for it. That expectation shaped everything, from design to daily labor. And, it's a lesson that applies far beyond shipbuilding. Remembering this history matters because it challenges the assumption that progress always replaces old knowledge. Sometimes it actually obscures it. When we forget how earlier societies solved long-term problems with limited resources, we lose more than just techniques. We lose ways of thinking that prioritize resilience over convenience. If you value these overlooked stories and the deeper lessons behind them, subscribe to Hidden in History. And hey, share this video with others who care about how the past still shapes survival, strategy, and preparedness today.